Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the second part of Trish's auto-RPG, Super Lesbian Animal RPG, stopping after we spend the night in the inn in Mumford. But before we get started, how is everyone's week?
So I was really wanting to start playing the Pokemon trading card game. I played it when I was a little kid, and I want to play it again now with all those crazy new mechanics. But it turns out the app for it sucks. Because, you know, the Pokemon Company is a very small company that doesn't have the resources to put together a really top-of-the-line app. They don't have more money than God. So it's definitely completely understandable for them to put out a busted app that makes my phone get so hot it literally is very uncomfortable in my hand to hold. So that's annoying.
Yeah.
I thought at first you were talking about the fact that the Game Boy Color Pokemon trading card game was recently added to the Switch online thing. And so I was very confused. I was very confused after a second. And now I'm like, oh, they released an app game. Okay.
The Game Boy Color game is awesome.
Yes. It is. I accidentally had it in my pocket when I went swimming once, and it kind of survived. It worked fine. It just, the battery was dead, and so it would erase my save every day. So it was basically just a game of like, how far can I get in one playthrough of this game?
I hate that multiplayer games are all that people like care about, and like every good card game is like multiplayer only, because I miss the days when you could have an RPG that the RPG part was playing card games. There's like there's 2 of them for Pokemon, there's like 5 of them for Yu-Gi-Oh, there's probably a couple others, but like those are fun. I like that.
Can you imagine if we had a Magic the Gathering game that had anywhere close to as much of like other content to it as like those Yu-Gi-Oh like Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games? Like, what the hell? What is wrong with you, Magic the Gathering? Why have you never got on this shit?
Instead, prior to Arena, they just would release a new game every single year that was the same thing but with different cards, and that's what they did instead. When we could have had some stupid RPG about some little kid wanting to grow up to be a planeswalker.
Exactly.
I think they should have made a RPG that has about being a kid in the real world playing Magic the Gathering in like the 90s, and it has stealth mechanics because your parents think it's satanic and you have to hide it and sneak out to go to tournaments and stuff.
I think
that's great idea.
I think the only modern one that I know of that's like that is the Dragon Ball Z one, but I didn't like it any. It wasn't very polished, and I'm not Japanese, so I don't have an affinity for the arcade card game that it's based on. So it was like 3 or 4 levels removed for me to properly enjoy it. But it is last 5 years they made another one of these Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance style. I'm a kid that wants to get good at playing this card game.
Yeah, I will just say, because if someone listening is like, but there was a Magic the Gathering game for PC. I know about that game. That was like 20 years ago. Probably more than 20 years ago at this point. And also, like, that's we're talking again. Yes, I want to get a story about a Magic the Gathering playing kid in the real world. Come on. Anyway, Bernard, besides the Pokemon trading card game thing, how's your week been besides that?
I have been trying to decide which fighting game I want to try to get into, because Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and Tekken 8 are all coming out within 1 year of each other, and it's got me hankering to get into a fighting game finally. I decided on Mortal Kombat 1 mainly because when I watch trailers for it, I yell "fuck yes," and most of the advice I've seen is pick a game that looks cool to you and pick a character that looks cool to you. And there are two characters in Mortal Kombat 1 where I'm like, holy shit, she looks awesome. I want to play as her. Sindel and Tanya.
I've heard some good things about it.
Yeah, I am excited to play it. I believe I'm too late to get in on the beta, but I will play the real game when it comes out.
I thought they like shadow dropped it, or did they shadow announce it and the drop is like a week away or type thing?
It comes out next month. It's
been
announced for a long time. I don't know what you're talking about.
I swear it was announced like last month.
Let me look up exactly how wrong you are. Yeah. In February 2023, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, and I said that name with asterisks in place of the vowels, announced during a fourth quarter earnings call that the 12th installment of the series would be released later that year. So it was announced in February to come out in September.
Okay. I swear.
You're wrong.
I mean, obviously I'm wrong, but I swear there was something recently that was like that where they announced it and it was like, oh yeah, it's basically done. But who knows what it could possibly be. My brain is a jumbled mess. So this week I got a S-Video graphics card, and specifically an AMD one, because AMD graphics cards carry their drivers on them, so they'll work with esoteric operating systems like Batocera. So I can put the S-Video graphics card in my computer, and S-Video converts to composite passively, so I can have a lag-free composite out on this emulation computer. And it's been wonderful. And the number one thing that I've done with it is let it go to screensaver. So I just have 30 seconds of a bunch of classic games playing on the TV constantly. It's just like an art piece in my room. And it's kind of wonderful and makes me really happy. And S-Video graphics cards are like $15. And this computer was being thrown away at my office. So there probably is computers getting thrown away at an office near you that you could ask if you could have. And then you could put old games on it for cheap. And I recommend doing that because old games are good. And as much as I love the Mister, I've realized that I don't actually care if games are accurate. I want games to be broken in the way that I like to play them, which is save states and fast forward. But other than that, I am probably going to bite on the Final Fantasy 14 promo that's going right now to get 2 free weeks of it, and then I will lose myself to Final Fantasy 14 for 2 weeks.
Cool.
It was nice knowing you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I will keep up with all of the games that I'm supposed to keep up with.
I hope.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm actually going to play Mortal Kombat 1 when I have to play 15 fucking games for this podcast.
Yeah. I was talking with my therapist and I was like, maybe I should like dial that back, but I don't want to. I just want there to be more time. I thoroughly enjoy every single one of the games that I have that we're playing right now, and I don't want to stop playing them. I just want to have already played them.
If only.
If only.
As for my week, I started doing some therapeutic journaling, which has been nice.
Nice.
Honestly, the biggest thing is that this isn't on a week thing. This is just today. I just got back from a really nice fancy date with my girlfriend. We went out to dinner, which was, I want to say fancy dinner. It was the price of a fancy dinner, but it was at like one of those like like you needed a reservation, but it's a bar and grill,
Mm-hmm.
which was lovely time, good food, not worth the price, but good. Um, and then we went to go see her. The chain of how this person is related to Marie is long, so we just call him her gay uncle.
Okay.
He's in a play. We went to Connecticut to go to a play, which is still, as a Californian, blowing my mind. It's like, let's just go take a half-hour drive and go to another state. I'm like, what are you talking about? Other states are hours. That's a half a day's drive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we just popped over to Connecticut to watch a play. It was an all right play, but with great acting. Really enjoyed the experience. Made a cool agender friend who was also one of the actors there. And now I'm back, and it was a nice evening. It was all
Nice.
like a grown-up fancy date. But yeah, that's my thing basically.
Nice. So yeah, let's listen to some SLRPG music, and then we'll talk about some SLRPG.
The night after the glitch dungeon fiasco, Allison wakes up to realize Melody isn't there and heads out to find her. You get to play as Allison now. There are a few cute things to find as Allison, but the real content comes from locating Melody at the waterside, sitting on the edge of the pier. It turns out Allison brought Melody her favorite kind of coffee, extremely sugary with very little actual caffeine in it. Allison joins her on the pier's edge and they talk about the day they had. After a little joking about how strange it was, Allison tells Melody that she did great and that her healing really mattered. It's up to the player's choice whether Melody is feeling good about her performance or whether she's left wishing she could have done better. I went with the latter because it's how I would have reacted. Melody admits to feeling in over her head, which leads to Allison attempting to comfort her by saying that she doesn't have to be useful to be wonderful. Melody talks about how she's been hoping that being a paladin, healing would be her thing, talking about all the special traits everyone else has, and then just saying, she's pink. At least as a healer, she would have something interesting about her. Allison takes exception to this view of herself, pointing out that there are a lot of special things that she can see in Melody, and then talking about some of the ways that Allison feels that she herself is just kind of a nothing kind of person. Allison finishes it off by saying that while she hopes that being an adventurer works out, it's okay if it doesn't. And Melody shouldn't be trying to force herself to do it if she doesn't want to. The conversation turns to focus on Allison, on how she's feeling about all this. After all, she's wanted to be an adventurer most of her life. Her mother is a famous adventurer, and when Allison was young, before they settled in Greenridge, her mother took her along. But Allison doesn't seem excited by it, doesn't seem happy with their recent semi-success. She's more stressed and worried about what could go wrong. Melody asks if she's ever told Allison why she chose the name Melody when she came out, to which Allison admits that she didn't. Explaining the meaning behind her name clearly makes Melody self-conscious, but she does it anyway. At the time, she felt like she had to pick the perfect name right off the bat, something that really made it clear that she was a girl. Melody sounded pretty, but also in music, it's the centerpiece of a song, the thing that holds it all together, the part that everyone remembers. She hoped that, with a name like Melody, maybe she'd turn out to be that way herself. Of course, she immediately follows this up by trying to downplay it, mentioning she doesn't really know music theory, so this could all just be dumb. But Allison says it does make sense as someone who did study music theory. Allison asks if Melody remembers what she said when Melody came out to her in Faith, which turns out to be, if you spelled it with an I, you could dot it with a heart. They wondered how it took them so long to start dating, with the evident answer being that they're dummies. We fade out of that scene and into a conversation between Javis and his mysterious superior. She's checking in regarding progress on this mission, and it turns out that Javis forgot the name of the planet the game takes place on.
I mean, so did I.
I don't think they'd actually mentioned it up to this point.
Is it not mentioned in the opening crawl? I felt
don't
like it was.
It could have been, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember it being mentioned there. Anyway, it's apparently reverie, or at least it is in modern times. Javis says that, aside from some interference, things have been going according to plan, and they have a local eagerly signed on to join their side. The Queen is antsy for her entrance, to get this operation truly started, and Javis tells her it should only be 48 hours until it's time for her arrival. And then we begin Act 2. After a morning argument over whether to make waffles for breakfast or not, Melody and Allison hear Claire call out to them from outside, telling them to meet her at the library. You can do that! Claire is sort of obsessing over what happened with Javis, which is understandable. He was a strange videotape-headed man who said some ominous things and, more to Claire's point, did something that, as far as she can tell, is impossible. What with the giant glitch dungeon he summoned. There's some argument over whether to talk to Faith about it, but Claire insists that they can handle this themselves. They just need to find Jodie and head out as a guild. Before they can leave the library, though, Mona the librarian stops them. Partially to yell at Claire, her favorite pastime, but also to let her know that she's willing to accept a deal Claire had offered a while ago. Mona will compile a bestiary of the monsters the party fights, which they will also have access to, and in return, Claire will clear out all the stuff in the library room she's been using for group activities. On the way to find Jodie, there are some interesting things you can find, such as Sherry and Joy, two children who have set up shop for adventurers inside of a house that doesn't seem to have any other uses. It's probably not safe for kids this young to be handling weapons, but don't be a narc. There's also a fortune-telling bear who can give you hints about where to go next, or do tarot readings for specific characters. The tarot readings cost gold, but they do have some interesting results. Also, this nameless bear is apparently the persona of Ponet's boyfriend. There's also the spellbook store, which is actually open now. Spellbooks are equipable items that come with a variety of set spells that whoever is using the spellbook can access, and you can mix and match them to whatever characters you want whenever you see fit. Those spells are all unique to that spellbook, but you can have multiple copies of the same spellbook if you want to spread certain spells to multiple party members. It's a fun little interactive kind of secondary class system in a way. Anyway, back to the plot stuff. The Paladin Brigade Tower is pretty empty, and everyone is busy it seems, so the party decides to go see Faith and ask where Jodie is. The problem is, she's the busiest of them all, but after some back and forth with Chet, the receptionist, they're able to get called up to the top floor. In the course of trying to learn where their tiger friend is, Allison quickly blabs about the weird stuff that happened the day before, and Faith decides it's time to share notes. Faith hasn't seen Jodie since 3 p.m. the day before, when she sent her out on a special mission. Monsters have been spotted near town, and not wild ones. These ones seem to be observing, and they run at the first sign of retaliation. The Paladin Brigade is on high alert, unsure of what this all means. There is also no cell service or internet anymore, which they're also confused about, and Faith agrees that the party should go look for Jodie, since she's worried about her girlfriend. She recommends they start searching at Amber Woods, and points the party towards how to get there. Before you can leave, however, Claire wants to stop by Piggledee's, the local diner. She works there part-time and wants to let Beverly know that she can't make it to work that day. Stopping by there to do just that, Beverly is very understanding about Claire needing to take the day off. She has to duck out mid-conversation, though, leading to Allison teasing Claire about when she's going to ask Beverly out. There is clearly some mutual attraction going on. Beverly's dialogue has literal hearts in it when she's talking to Claire, but our mage friend is worried that if she asks her out and it goes poorly, they could end up losing what they have together now, and just wants to stay friends. Which is one of those things, it's like, yeah, I definitely get what you mean, but also, I feel like you're kind of just, you're chickening out, you should just do it. With that done, you can head to the Amber Woods. Though, before you do, you can also check the bulletin board in town, where you'll find side quests. Right now, there are only 2. Holly, the extremely buff paladin, is looking for help putting up posters in the woods. She wants to start a wrestling tournament. And Pepper, the evil child, seeks a dark weapon from the Amber Woods, giving the key and promising to handsomely reward those who bring her the true prize. Anyway, Amber Woods. The way forward is blocked by a giant cube of ice, which has Beth and Mariana, the bards, stuck inside. In order to free them and continue on, you have to go down a side path, heading to a shrine for a sun goddess, Soleil, in the hopes that a prayer to her will help deal with this issue. It doesn't. The goddess doesn't respond. Luckily, once you leave the shrine, there's a cart set up outside with it full of officially licensed Soleil merchandise, one of which is a keychain that gives you the ability to heal ice status effects in battle and melt the giant ice cubes outside of it. The guy running the cart doesn't even charge for our heroes, since he's heard of them and is happy to assist with their adventures by giving them a freebie. The bards are grateful once you free them from the ice cube, and Beth promises they'll repay the debt somehow, adventurer to adventurer. That done, you're free to explore the rest of Amber Woods, which has quite a lot of loot, in addition to the things needed for those 2 side quests. You can also find a park ranger, who warns of the party of the Trash King, who has been stirring up trouble lately and attacking people. It's only once you find the Trash King and decide to give dialogue a try before just attacking him that you realize this is not a sapient beast person like the rest of the cast. It is just a large bird that loves trash and wants to kick your ass. Instead, you kick the bird's ass, and with it out of the way, you're able to find a wallet on the ground. Claire recommends checking how loaded the wallet is before they decide to give it back to the owner, but quickly folds under pressure from her friends. The question was moot anyway, since the wallet is Jodie's. She's definitely been this way, but where is she now? Well, the bright pink warp pad might be a clue. Taking it sends the party to a floating desert island in the sky, and within minutes of stepping out, Melody is ready to head back home. After all,
me too.
After all, this is a lot, and the sudden distance from home makes her worry about getting back. Claire tries to soothe her by explaining that the range of this teleporter isn't that far, they should be fairly close to the Sapphire Islands, while Allison points out that it's likely Jodie came this way, and it's also a likely place for Javis to set up shop. Ultimately, the idea of rescuing Jodie is what spurs Melody onwards. The desert is full of angry robots of various types, which only get worse when the party locates a giant robot, and after another failed attempt to communicate with the boss, it attacks. Even defeating it in battle doesn't really take it down, though, and just as things are looking bad, Jodie arrives and tosses something onto the robot's back, powering it down. Claire immediately hugs Jodie once she's in hugging range. As it turns out, she's been extremely worried about her roommate. Jodie's a little confused as to why everyone has been so worked up until they tell her that she's been gone for 24 hours with no contact. They also explain to her everything that's happened, doing a little casting of an exposition spell effectively, and agree to work together to get to the bottom of this. Jodie expects to get into the lead, and it's up to you as to whether Melody points out that she's been leading the group lately, or for having her staying quiet and Allison pointing that out.
I thought she was saying, we will fast travel back to Mumford. We'll skip the part where you
backtrack?
Yeah. I thought that was what she was asking. So I, of course, said don't object, because I've had enough of these dungeons at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I love them, but I've had enough of them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But then, no, that's not what it meant.
No.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Anyway, it's around this point that the robot activates again and reveals that it is actually a she, and her name is Glyph. Someone reprogrammed her to attack any beast people she saw, and she's extremely grateful that she didn't end up hurting anyone too badly. She heads off to meet up with the party later, at the place that Jodie feels they should rest for the night, a little settlement called Mumford. For progression purposes, Jodie is able to help us cross spike pits using a barrier spell her girlfriend taught her, which makes getting to the entrance of Mumford a lot simpler. Mumford is full of robots and undead people, including the mummy who's been showing up in random battles. The party assumed that there were a bunch of mummies who look like that, while the mummy, Neff, explains with annoyance that, no, there's only one of her, and the party isn't the only one who can use healing potions. She's been attacking them because she thought they were with the recent intruders, the ones who had reprogrammed Glyph. Clearly, assumptions were made all around, but she's willing to give the party the benefit of the doubt once it's become clear that they helped Glyph. Heading to the inn where they can rest for the night, they learn that they don't have to spend any money to stay there. All they need to do is share a story. In fact, Mumford doesn't use currency at all. They're a commune that only deals with gold in order to trade with outsiders. Which
I
love.
You know, I respect that, but I gotta be honest, if I were in their shoes and I came and I found myself in this situation, I'd be like, oh my fucking God. Just let me.
You don't want to share a story?
I don't want to share a story. I want to.
Well, only a couple of them gave a story, so I don't think it's required for each individual person to share a story.
Okay, if one of you shares a story, if we ever end up in this situation.
Okay.
I am incapable of not telling stories to strangers, so I will pay our fare. Don't worry.
Okay.
Awesome. There's one other guest staying the night, the savior of Mumford, who turns out to be none other than Allison's mom, Amelia. There's a lovely reunion between the two, and Amelia remarks that this is the first time she's seen Melody since the news of their relationship. Everyone gathers around to share stories, and after Amelia regales them all with some business involving a duke, where she stole a fancy car from him in order to exchange to get him back for him blowing up her minivan, all eyes turn to Allison. After all, she's Amelia's daughter. She must have incredible stories too. Sadly, Allison starts to fumble under all that pressure, and even with Melody suggesting a particular fight that she can focus on, it's not exactly enough for her to be able to weave it into a fine tale like her mother can. I chose the Core Guardian. What did you two choose?
I
the Core
chose
Guardian.
I chose the Trash King because I thought Core Guardian, that seems secret.
You know what? I'm actually kind of curious now how her attempting to tell the Trash King story goes.
How exactly does it go? It's basically just like, yeah, we fought this big monster, but then as she talks, she can't help but reveal that it was just a big bird. But it was a hard boss fight.
It was a hard boss fight, yeah. Like, I had way too much health.
But it was just a big bird that liked to eat trash.
Yeah. I really, actually, I love, I didn't bring it up in the recap, I love the joke with the Trash King that he tries to cast a spell and then realizes he doesn't have any spells.
Yes.
It's a dumb joke, but I adore it.
I really liked it. Made me remember the same thing happens in some Dragon Quest games where like an enemy will start charging up a really powerful spell, but then they don't have enough MP.
Jodie picks up the slack, though, telling the story of how she met Faith. She and Claire aren't from Greenridge, but from a larger city called Brightport. Jodie moved there after high school, and after a few years, she was dealing with an amicable breakup that still was left with her feeling down. That's when Faith entered the picture, commissioning her for a set of armor and a lance. After all, she wanted to be the next guardian of Greenridge, so she needed the best gear for the job. At the time, Jodie only really knew her as a friend of Melody and Allison's, one who was always busy, but as they spent time together, it became obvious that Faith was interested in her. Jodie was eager to impress her, putting her heart and soul into the job, and every day Faith would take time to visit with her. When the gear was finished, there wasn't an excuse to see each other anymore, so Faith asked her out. That cute story done, everyone separates to head to their rooms for the night. Melody and Allison snuggle in bed, and Melody takes a break from doing nothing on her phone to check in with how her girlfriend's doing. Allison is feeling insecure. She loves her mom, but she's the savior to these people. She's this charismatic figure that everyone loves, and Allison is just figuring her life out. She's a mess of a person. She wanted their reunion to be once that she'd done something to make her mother proud. This is clearly not a new problem, just one that's being made worse by the present circumstances. Allison talks about how she used to consider changing her last name just so people wouldn't know that they were related and have that criteria to judge her with. This turns into Allison bringing up the idea that she could take Melody's last name, Amaranth. Melody points out that Allison Amaranth sounds like a superhero name, and as Allison ponders that, Melody makes it clear that they should probably actually get some sleep instead of spending all night talking about what they'd be like as superheroes. Fuck, these two are relatable. They're also adorable as they hug in bed with Allison thanking Melody for all she does and apologizing for making her worry. And it is on that adorable note that we leave off for this week.
Awesome. So yeah, let's listen to some more music and then we'll talk about our memorable moments.
So I feel like a lot of RPG Maker games aren't interested in or don't feel confident in attempting or something. They tend, in my experience, the ones I've played, it seems like they don't want to be mechanically deep, challenging RPGs, which is fine. I love Space Funeral and stuff like that, but I also really love when I'm having to think hard about what spell to use and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And on the normal difficulty, this game has that, and I really am enjoying the battles.
Mm-hmm.
And the dungeons are long and difficult, and I am engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the battles are definitely not just, flick through really quickly, just, smash, attack. It's like, no, you got to think about stuff.
Yeah, and I can tell that they worked really hard on it because of the way that a couple of things work. I can see, knowing RPG Maker, I can see how the cheese is made, and they are like breaking it over its own back to make it do things like
That classic phrase, breaking something over its own back.
Exactly.
We all know what that
like
means.
I see. Clearly it means pulling a Bane and breaking, like in Nightfall, just breaking the back with your knee.
Yeah, exactly. But God damn it. So like one of the, I think it was the Trash King, but I don't think it actually was. I think it might have been Glyph. Picks up a boulder and throws it at you. And what actually happens is it calls for backup, and who answers the backup is a boulder. And if the start of the second turn happens and the boulder is alive, then the boulder dies, and Glyph uses a special move, which is so cool. Like they want some things to happen, and it can't happen in RPG Maker, so they make it happen anyways. One of the ones I saw on thankskinpenders.tumblr.com when they were talking about it, when I looked it up the other day, is someone asked, why does it say Allison attempts to kiss Melody and Melody attempts to kiss Allison? It's because you can't hard code in a target into a spell, but you can call an event. So the attempts is calling the event, and the event is like, oh, if it's so and so's turn, this event targets Allison, or this event targets Melody. But it has to be a 2-part process, so it has to have the attempts to kiss, even though it's set at 100% each time. And they just have so many cool, good things in this battle system that they had to work extra hard on, because the engine is not built for it, which is super cool.
I just assumed that Melody attempts to kiss Allison was just there to be funny, because this is a battle system, and of course even something silly like that would, in D&D for example, carry a chance of failure. And I didn't know if it would have the possibility of failure. If it did, I think that would be hilarious.
Yes.
But it would also be annoying. So it's probably the right decision to not have it fail. But
yeah.
But yeah, this week we got access to the item shop, and then also the second item shop where we could get spell books. And the spellbook system is weird but really cool, and it kind of
it's
carries a lot of weight, and I don't know how to do it optimally, which is great.
Same.
Because normally you can just equip, like if you have a mage, you equip the one that gives you the most magic, and that's it, you win. But this is like which subclass works for which person. And like Spellblade feels like it should go on Allison, but would it make more sense for that to go on Claire, so that Claire can use her magic to buff Allison and Allison attack on the same turn? Like, what am I supposed to do? Do I give the one that gives extra healing to other people so I have better heals, or should I give it to Melody because Melody gets star power, if she uses heals. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And the answer is buy 4 of each and just have fun with it.
Absolutely. I will also point out another kind of, I didn't cover it because the game doesn't call attention to as much, but another kind of, I don't want to say mechanic, but it almost feels like a mechanic, is at this point in the game, we start getting access to more accessories. You could buy several of them from the shop in Mumford. There's also one that you can get, like, and the ones you can get there are all pretty good. They're like, it's like, oh, one that lowers MP cost, one that you don't have to worry about the status condition. Like, those are all good. But there's one you get if you complete the Pepper side quest, which is not good. It is this is going to change how you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love items like that because, so first of all, because we didn't go into side quest, we didn't get into it, but the Pepper side quest is you find that the thing she's trying to get for you is a knife, like just a legit knife. And the party has to have an ethical conversation about, is it okay to give a child a knife?
And their answer is, well, I mean, they have access to magic and they haven't done anything horrible so far, and that's way more dangerous than a knife, so it's fine.
I really enjoyed how, like, Allison is the one who's like, this feels wrong. And Claire's like, listen, she has access to dark magic, and her grandfather, who's around, is a dark lord. Like, if she's not dangerous with that, a knife's not gonna change it at all. And the way they sum it up at that is like, do we want to endanger a child, or are we going to be a snitch? And you get the same reward, I believe, regardless of if you give the knife to the mom or the child. I decided this time I gave it to Pepper. I was swayed by Claire's argument. There's nothing worse she can do.
Oh, I definitely gave it to the kid.
Yeah. But what you get is I think it's called a power-up pin or something like that, which is a accessory that makes it so your star power doesn't disappear at the end of a battle.
That is not what I got. So,
I don't remember. I didn't find the knife, which is wild because I feel like I explored the Amberwoods very.
There's a lot of
thoroughly.
Amberwoods to explore.
But I did get that accessory from a chest or something, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Oh God, am I misremembering what I'm probably misremembering what is the reward for that quest? What was the reward you got for that quest?
I got the bracelet.
You did get the bracelet. Yeah, right. It's a bracelet. You get the power pin from somewhere else. Okay, but still, the power up pin is just so good. I personally like to put it on Melody because she has a lot of good uses for that.
Yeah, and MP at the whenever you need it is
exactly
a very good thing.
Yeah, that's my bad. I completely misremembered where you get which one.
Oh, but speaking of the MP spell not being dog shit like it is in every fucking game that gives you Osmos and other sorts of MP spells, it's making me engage with the mechanics. Why doesn't everything have a fucking bitchin' Osmos spell that you can use all the time? Like, to build up my star power, I'm healing every turn. I'm not saving my Curagas for when it's important. Like, no, like MP is now a like risk and reward system instead of just a like attack. I'm like, oh, look, because we're playing Dragon Quest VII for Longcast, and while playing through the thing for this next episode we're going to record, like I would burn through my MP like right away because nobody has like healing spells worth saving, and so you get in your first fight and you would run out of MP, and then you basically don't have it for forever. And it's supposed to be like something that you budget, and like, oh, I need to save some for healing and some in case there's a boss, etc., etc. And this does away with that by letting, oh, if you heal somebody twice, you can then give someone like 80 MP back, and you just do that over and over again, and that's your healing rotation basically, and everybody can do their stuff a lot more. But having to it not just being an MP cost like Osmos where it's a star power cost, you have to do other things to earn it. It makes it fun to play. And
yeah,
this is an RPG Maker game, and it blows my mind.
The mechanics are well thought out, and the fact that you just have one power up pin, and it becomes a question of which character do you want to give this to? Because I can imagine giving that to Allison and being able to stack up star power in her and just burn it on finishing off people really quickly would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I definitely put it on Melody because I want that MP spell as active as often as possible. There's also the I don't know how, I'm not sure what level exactly you guys are at this point, but do you both have gotten to the point where Claire's gotten the magic missile spell?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that she gets this thing. It's like, oh, this is extremely useful. It costs MP and SP. It's going to use your star power and some of your MP, and not like a small amount of it.
No, it's like 30 MP or something.
Yeah, but it's like a clear the board spell effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I considered giving the pin to Claire so that I'd be able to actually use Magic Missile at the beginning of a fight. I considered giving it to Melody because one of her nature spells is Woodland Healing, which casts regen on someone for 1 star power. And being able to cast that at the beginning of a fight would be very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on Claire, because she is a glass cannon.
Absolutely.
And I also want to give it to Allison. So, like you said, she can dive on people right at the beginning and knock someone out real quick.
Yeah,
and
I will.
Jodie, I'm sure, has stuff too.
Jodie will have more stuff later. I will tell you, she definitely gets some really good abilities later. But to start with, she's all right. Her main thing is just protective abilities.
I have not fought a battle with her because
you just
by the time she joined my party, I was like, I've done a lot of dungeon at this point. I'm ready to call it a day. So I avoided battles on my way back to Mumford.
Did we talk about last episode the Allison theme song thing?
We did not.
Oh, we did not. Yes, we get that new ability.
Yes, we get to point leveling up where Allison has a costs nothing to do ability, which is just her playing her theme music, which changes the music for the fight and gives her 1 star, 1 gauge of star power. And mechanically, it's just worse than her kissing Melody. That is mechanically better, but her theme song is so fucking good that I will do it occasionally anyway because I just want to.
Yeah, I feel like surely it must have been they realized, oh, if I do this, I can make an attack change the music. Oh, wouldn't this be hilarious?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I could imagine being playing the battle hymn for everyone's souls, big important thing, and you're like, oh shit, I got the boss on the ropes. I'm gonna win. Let me put in my cassette and hit play, and now my theme music's playing, and it switches to Burn My Dread Final Remix, and you kill the boss, and that could be dope. And it might be how I make how I use it is to make myself smile while playing the game.
Yeah. Speaking of, I will say, since you haven't had Jodie in a fight yet, Jodie's star power thing is that she gets star power whenever she takes damage. And she specifically has 1 move where she taunts enemies, so they're going to be more likely to target her. And then she has a move called Apologize, which takes that effect away.
Yes, I did notice she has a taunt, and I did look at her abilities, and I find it very funny that the remove taunt ability is called Apologize. I think that's really cute.
That's really good.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like, at least this far in the game, Jodie's kind of the least sketched. Obviously, we spent the least time with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy her in, I don't know if either of you've seen Young Justice, but listeners, if you've seen Young Justice, she has a very Calder feeling of this character is a character I bet a lot of people are going to say is boring because they're the stable and emotionally intelligent one who doesn't have a lot of drama going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I still enjoy her for that because she's just a pleasant person. I love the enemy design in this game so much. Not just mechanically, though mechanically there is some very fun things, but also just the cool snake. The cool snake.
It's so
I don't
good.
think I encountered a cool snake.
Oh my god, I need to send you a picture of the cool snake.
I hit the cool snake so many times.
The cool snake is a snake in an S shape that has the cool S as a necklace, and then it has a paper crown, sunglasses, and it's wearing a sneaker.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it. It's wonderful. How did I not encounter this?
I don't know. It's so wonderful.
Is it in the Amber
Amber
Woods?
Woods. Also, I love the
fought
loot
so many
scooter.
battles there.
I love the loot scooter, speaking of Amber Woods enemies. It's very obviously the metal slime, and they are like, what if we make the metal slime literally just a snail with a treasure chest for a shell?
It's so good. I also love the little balloon frogs that get bigger when you hit them.
The frog balls! Well, that actually raises their attack every time that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense, I think.
Yeah, they can get really annoying if you take too long to kill them. And then I kind of put this in the recap, but I love the fact that you fight this, what you probably assume is just there are a bunch of mummies in this desert. And then it's like, no, it's this one girl who's just been healing every time you kick her ass.
Yes, I thought that was very funny as well. Because all the enemies in that section are robots, except for also you have Malcontent Mummy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Malcontent Mummy is the only non-robot. No, there's also the Tumbleweed.
Oh yeah.
There's also the Tumbleweed with a wizard hat, which is so silly, but I adore it. The bestiary records. I don't want to try to get into all, but there's a lot of really hilarious stuff in those bestiary records with different enemies, including like
those yet.
Those are pretty good. The one for the mage tumbleweed is like they're mostly at least all started from Mona's perspective, and then other characters will chime in. So like Mona's like, I don't know why is it this is just a tumbleweed with a mage's hat, and Claire's like, hey, respect it. It's a fellow mage. It has my respect.
So good.
I will say the tarot reading thing at the fortune tellers, I didn't do that my first playthrough at all. There is some interesting stuff if you drop some money on those. I think the most like one I can mention, I feel safe mentioning now that I think is interesting and worth mentioning is when you get to Claire's, she immediately is just like skip the past. Like the guy's like rated like start with the past card, and he's like, she's just I don't want to hear about what you think about my past. Let's just move to the present.
Interesting.
Which is kind of telling.
That's cool.
Also, if you go to Claire and Jodie's house and explore, because that's a thing you can do now. That's a little area that's kind of opened up now. And there's the funny thing of Claire apparently wants to podcast and bought a microphone so she could podcast before realizing she didn't know what to podcast about. Which I don't know, looks at us. Like, and then there's also a bit where when you talk about her outfit, she's like, or there's like a pride flag in her room, and when you examine it, like a trans pride flag in her room, and Melody's like, yeah, it's so cool that your outfit is, blue and pink and white. She's like, I didn't consider that. That's an accident.
Also, you can see Claire's attempts at alchemy, which includes a potion that makes your mouth taste like hot dog water.
Yeah.
And a potion which is soap.
Yeah. I do Claire is a character that, like, it takes a bit for me to get into her headspace, but she is occasionally very relatable, and she definitely has that energy, especially when you're examining her room, of like, this girl's just constantly searching for shit to do with her time. She's just looking for hobbies and trying out different skills. I think she has ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Relatable. These characters are all too relatable.
It's very true.
I love Claire so much because I don't have to actually spend time with her in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, she's the kind of character that's fun in a game, and in real life you would be infuriated by. I mean, because they have been setting up this like thing to deal with of like she has a history of just doing shit and then avoiding consequences and not wanting to hear about how that was her fault.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, that's a character flaw, girl. You should work on that. I know working on character flaws is hard, but avoiding it can only last so long.
I'm so glad I don't have any character flaws.
Yeah,
I'm glad
that sounds
too.
exhausting.
You're great. Well, anything else you two could think of for the particular chunk of the game?
The only one that hasn't come up for me so far is after you defeat Glyph, her eye and the screen on her chest are blue screens, which is a good little joke.
It is. Oh, I actually do have one. There's a lot of fun stuff to get if you're examining Mumford. Just the town is a fun little town of zombies who, if you dig into it, it's like, yeah, they just all woke up one day on this island. They don't know who they used to be. They don't know why they're here. They're kind of interested in figuring out, but they're mostly just living their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is named Crud.
Yeah.
I love Crud.
Crud's great.
One thing I want to say as my final memorable moment is you can buy food in this game, and one of the food items you can buy is and single carrot.
Yes, and single carrot. Well, also they do something fun that I think I've seen other games do with food, where food heals different characters depending on how much they like the food.
Oh, that's cool.
I think Deltarune does that. It's been a while since I played Deltarune.
Xenoblade does that. So
I don't remember Xenoblade doing that, but you could tell me literally any system is in Xenoblade, and I would believe you.
That system in Xenoblade is weird, and I
looked
up
right.
a guide.
In Xenoblade 2, you have to give them the things, and they have their favorites. And I forget what it does.
It goes in a pouch, and it gives a boost or something. I don't know. There's so much shit in Xenoblade 2.
What was the food mechanic in Tales of Symphonia? I remember there being one.
So cooking is a big thing in all of Tales. Shout outs to Tales of Podcastia. You can find it on www.rpgbook.club. But in each of the Tales games, they do cooking a little different. In Tales of Symphonia, you equip a recipe that you cook at the end of every battle, and
that was it.
And so you can do a sandwich, and you'll make a sandwich at the end of every battle, which will give you a buff of things. In Tales of Fantasia, it's just a thing you can do in between battles, but only once per in between battle, and so you can go and you can heal up and do stuff for an alternative thing that's not money or potions. Which is really cool.
I do remember in Symphonia there was also an additional thing of like who was cooking each item because different characters were better cooks with different things.
Yeah,
it was a neat little mechanic.
That's definitely a thing.
Speaking of flavor, I also appreciate if you check the descriptions on some of the healing on all of the healing items. Really, they all have a flavor to them. Like ethers are cherry flavored, and I think antidotes are grape flavored. It says like all good medicine or something like that. Which, like, completely unnecessary detail, but I love it. Also, the fighting Neff before you realize that her name is Neff and she's a person, she can drop an item called a, like, mummy dagger, I think it's called. And it's not a weapon that you can equip to any of your characters. It's just if you go to items, it's something you can sell in shops, and it specifically says like, yeah, looking at this thing, you're like 90% sure this is cursed. So instead of dealing with this yourself, you should just give it to someone else for money.
If I recall correctly, it specifically says that selling it to someone else, so it's someone else's problem, would be the responsible thing to do.
It does. I love this game.
Oh, that's so good.
Also, the two young children who are running a shop. I love them too. They're so good. Their song for their shop in the soundtrack is named "Don't Be a Narc." Oh gosh.
I love them in part because bats are one of my favorite animals, and one of them is a bat. But also they're hilarious.
You're very funny. Yeah, they're And they're another element that is largely very much one of the few things very carried over from the original Super Lesbian Horse RPG game. Anyway, anything else?
I think that's it for me.
Alrighty then. I can't. Oh wait, I do have one last thing. You can, if you go to the right area in the desert, you can find an eclipse blade. Well, you find a treasure chest which has been out in the sun so long it's welded shut. So you have to do a small battle where you defeat the chest so you can open the chest. And inside is an eclipse blade, which Allison gets very excited about up until Jodie's like, "Oh, that thing's trash. That thing's literal trash." And explain when Allison's like, "But it's an eclipse blade. That sounds so metal." And Jodie's like, "Yeah, the thing is, every time there's an eclipse, a bunch of blacksmiths make a bunch of weapons in the hopes that one of them will end up having some kind of eclipse magic. And like by the law of averages, sure, there's always a couple that are good, but most of them are just trash. It's a marketing thing." Which is such a I love that concept so much. It feels so real.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a trash hammer, which Jodie then explains. No, that one's actually good though. That one is called trash hammer, but it's very good. Also, the hammer items, and there's a couple that you've been able to find up to this point, are stronger than normal weapons, but they make it so you can't use a spell book.
Yes.
Which is a fun little trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
Which I am never willing to do because I want the extra spells.
Mm-hmm. How that cheese is made is that spell books would be a right hand weapon, and hammers would be a two-handed weapon, so you can't put anything in your right hand.
Why do you say how the cheese is made? That's not the phrase, is it?
I'm from Wisconsin now. I think I've heard how the cheese is made a lot.
Okay. I've only been to Wisconsin briefly.
I've never been to Wisconsin. I've been to the far west and the far east and nowhere in between.
But yeah, you saying that
how the sausage
snapped me
is
out
made.
of it. Yeah, it's definitely how the sausage is made, but I guess it's how the cheese is made.
The sausage is made on a YouTube channel called Ordinary Sausage once a week.
Gross. Anywho, that'll do it for the week. If you liked what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where you can donate to help us pay for hosting costs, game costs, and various subscription costs. In return, you can join one of 3 tiers. The Gadabout tiers for everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This will get you access to our Book Club no Kiseki episodes and our Tales of Podcastia episodes a month before everyone else, and also lets you vote on our polls whenever they go live. Our Warrior tier is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month, and they also get their name shouted out at the end of every episode, like this. Shouts to Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Cerebral Wind, Floris, Kaldron, Freddy Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, JFro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, we have the Luminary tier for everyone who loves us so much they pay us $20 or more a month. They also get a one-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. Shoutouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout out to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website by people like us, for people like us. Shout out to Vimk, who says, play The Legend of Legaia. It's that PS1 RPG you forgot about. And also to Carr, who's a dentist, so he's not shouting out a URL, but rather your own mouth. He says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard, and Sam almost said Graham's criticism, and now I'm just thinking of Infogrames. And I realize all I know about them is that they had cute armadillo logos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.